In 40 years as a games master, I've run games with miniatures and battle maps, pure theatre of the mind, whiteboards, and virtual tabletops. I've built my own GM screens, made dice towers, printed tokens for luck, laminated cards for spells, and I've created fake websites for in-game factions. Now I prefer to game with a very minimal setup, but there's 5 things I can't do without, and one I always yearn for. If you're new to this channel, then welcome aboard. Do hit the subscribe button at the point where you go, okay, this guy looks weird, but they've got a point. I don't play at my own home unless it's online. My apartment just isn't set up for gaming. My preference for gaming is sat around a dinner table, and we don't have that. Plus, my partner isn't a gamer and doesn't want to be. My son is and would want to join in every time. So typically, I take my weird little hobby out of the house when I want to indulge it. This means I need to be able to pick up the game and go. And over the years, this has winnowed down what I use for gaming nights. Here are the 5 things I must have to run a game. Some of these will seem obvious to you, but I guarantee there's someone watching this getting ready for tonight's game who just went, oh, yes, I should pack that too. Number 1, rulebook and PDF. I have sight issues, and many RPG rulebooks are simply not designed for people like me. They have tiny text on coloured backgrounds and dreadful indexes. I love to try Morkborg and its colourful children, but every time I pick up a copy in a shop, I just get a headache. So I'm very glad that these days physical books often come with a PDF copy of the rules, because then I can read them on my iPad, zoomed in, and in game I can use Control F to look stuff up. But as someone who also loves books and collecting, I don't want to run a game entirely out of a Dropbox folder. And at the table, if a player has a question that would be a sidetrack for me, I want to be able to just hand them the book. So I never run a game I don't own a physical copy of. Even better than a PDF, some games have an SRD that's plain text, and I can just convert that into Markdown and put it into Obsidian, the program I use for corralling my thoughts. 2 is index cards, not sheets of paper. My notes are on my iPad, so more about that in a second, but generally I don't use a notebook or a pad of paper during a session. I do want to be able to scribble things down, clocks to tick off, the names of NPCs that I can show to players, or make handouts on the fly or pass notes. For this I use index cards. Index cards work better for me because I can hand them out without tearing anything out of anywhere. I can put them in different piles in front of me without having to leaf through pages of a notebook or pad. They're also great for making tent cards for character names, giving to players who want to write their own notes or send messages. 3, pencils and dice, because the players forget them. These days I generally run systems with minimal dice requirements, but I always bring enough dice for the players. Perhaps not a set each if it's a game which uses the full array, but I have memories of players getting very huffy because someone just took a dice from in front of them that was their lucky D20. For games like Impulse Drive or Monster of the Week, Blades in the Dark and so on, where all we need is D6s, I just bring a big enough stack for everyone. Toy shops sell these at very low prices. I can get 10 D6 in the UK for £1. The steps required to get polyhedral dice and costs involved are actually an obstacle, and it's an access issue for some people, even if you can't picture that. I also bring pencils because people are human and humans forget things. I did go a step further the last time I ran Apocalypse World. I had 2 mismatched dice from old board games that looked weathered and worn, and pencils that were little more than chewed stubs. And I told the players that they had to use these, and not their shiny pre-Armageddon dice they cherished so fondly. Number 4, my notes on the iPad, because delay is bad. My notes and my copy of the rules are open on my iPad, with the layout of Shadow Dark, for example, being so heaven sent, I can have them both on screen at the same time. I don't really need a GM screen if the players can't see what's on the iPad. I'm not hiding any die rolls from them, even in games where the GM does roll dice. I do my prep and make my notes in Obsidian because I want to get the information out of my head and onto a page. I don't really need to worry about it looking pretty. And it's on the index cards in the session that I jot down the names of the NPCs I made up on the fly, because I don't like typing stuff as I talk. I used to make notes in a notebook, but then if I didn't have it on me, it felt like I couldn't prep and I couldn't record ideas I was having half around the supermarket. Now I have a shortcut on my phone that appends a text box as contents onto a markdown file in Dropbox so I can record the thought now and process it later. Invariably, I also wouldn't look back at the notebook until several days after the session, and then I'd be all, why did I write not a badger? So getting the session beats recorded as we go works so much better for me. Generally, it's the next morning when I process the index cards and then I bin them. I don't want to go shuffling through a stack of them next session. I don't need to if the data is now on the iPad. 5. Better handouts. The fifth thing on this list is actually sometimes a bit of work, but again, it's something I've slowly come around to the realization that it makes my life and my players' lives easier. It's better handouts. Player handouts that are multi-column but don't fold into a booklet with coloured backgrounds and text that doesn't print in a black and white printer and are only available in American paper sizes irk me. PBTA games where the moves are on the playbook and the moves sheet are on the other moves sheet or on the other moves sheet and never on any of these in alphabetical order really irk me. I love Impulse Drive, but it feels like I'm running an office. At the table, these pages never stay in order if they're not stapled. If they're landscape, then a stapled top left means there's pages upside down at times. It's chaos. And a trifold leaflet playbook is just a sheet of paper you unfold at the beginning of the session, then you're annoyed it won't lay flat during play. Tell me in the comments if I'm wrong. Tell me you love any of that. Shadow Dark does so many things right by having a free player's quick start that is formatted as a booklet. For other games, I hunt through Reddit and the internet for fan-made A4 sheets, and if necessary, I make my own. Here's my booklet for Impulse Drive that replaces separate sheets for common moves, session moves, uncommon moves, gear, and cyberware. So those are the 5 things I need, but what's the thing I long for? A dedicated box they'll all fit into. My first RPG experiences were all with box sets. You could add your notes and the dice, and then everything would be together, ready to go. It imprinted on my duckling brain, and I learned to swim these waters with a box, so a box I shall want. In the UK, it's really hard to find storage boxes or box files that neatly fit the size of books like Monster of the Week or Shadow Dark. It's just one of the reasons I love Mothership. It comes in a box. So what's missing from this list? What don't I care about? Well, apps. Because I'm not running D&D, I don't have to worry that character creation and advancement has been made deliberately complicated enough to require outside help to be purchased. So my players can have a form-fillable PDF online or a paper sheet in person. It's so much easier to get distracted by your phone if you've already got your phone in your hand. There are great accessibility reasons why I'd never say no one can use a phone or tablet in a session, but I think the difference in feel, paper and pencils and physical dice compared to everything else these days being on your phone with ads is one of the great draw for in-person role-playing games. Battle maps and minis. As soon as I draw an empty rectangle for the players to stand in, they think the space is empty. I stick to theatre of the mind and trying to say yes to any, oh, and looking around the room, do I see? Watch my video about descriptions for more of my bizarre opinions on those. So that's my go-to set of kit to take my game out to meet my players. What's yours? What would you swap out from my list and what can't you do without? Join the conversation in the comments downstairs. I do love to hear other people's opinions too. And if you want to know what the prep I'm doing is actually focused on, don't worry, I've got a video or 2 about that. Watch this one next.